Okay then, so in this video we have got a few bits to do on the Civic and the Smax. On the Smax we have got a locking wheel nut which has broken off, so we're going to have to try and get that off. And on the Civic we have got a bit of bumper trim which keeps coming off again, which you've probably seen in a couple of the other videos. Hopefully we've got a permanent solution for that. There's a knock-in on the rear which is really annoying, so we're going to try fix that. And we're also going to check the brakes because we've got a couple of track days coming up and we don't want to run out of brake pads on the track. So the first job we're going to do is try and remove this lock-in wheel nut in there, which is sheared off. So story behind that is I had a flat tyre on this, had a nail in it. So when I took the wheel off, took it to a tyre place, got a new tyre put on, brought it back home, went to put the wheel back on, did this locking wheel nut off, and it snapped. Now it's not a big problem until we need to remove the wheel, so it's best to get it done rather than just leave it until we do actually need to remove the wheel. So this is what's left of the locking wheel nut, and there's a bit broken off here. I don't think there's that many threads left on it. We throw that on there. That here's the one that isn't broken, and if you look, see where the threads start. So there can't be that many threads left on it. So my plan is to drill, so this bit's all been removed, sheared off, which is here. So to drill some holes around here and then try and get a punch or something and then just break what's left off out of it, and then hopefully the wheel will come off. I mean, worst case scenario, I'll take the other wheel nuts off, go around about a speed, and then the wheel will just fall off anyway. So I've made a right mess of this, as you can see. I've drilled it, used my Dremel to grind it, smacked it with a couple of chisels and hammers and punches, but I think the best thing I used was this hole saw, which I went round the thread. I think I've ruined the wheel stud anyway, so we'll get that changed. And it's gone much deeper, much quicker than any of the other methods I used. And I've taken some more of the thread off, and here you can see. So hopefully a little bit longer and we will have this wheel off. And one big kick, it is off. You see there's a load of bits in there, so let's pull it off, see what it looks like. So I've definitely ruined that stud. I might be able to clean it up, but I'll probably replace it anyway. You can see how far I drilled into. I actually drilled into the brake disc. But doesn't matter. Right, let's have a look at this wheel. Lie it down. So that is what is left. Let me get a screwdriver. Put that out. There we go. There it is. So that is what is left of the locking wheel nut. There we go. And hopefully, I mean, I've made a bit of a mess of that. I mean, these wheels are not the best condition. So hopefully it should be alright. I should be able to clean that up a little bit. I mean, there's still quite a bit of material on here to stop the wheel falling off, and there's 4 more studs anyway. So we'll try and clean this up a little bit. Clean that up a little bit, get the wheel back on, and then move on to the Civic. So one of the jobs is the exhaust is knocking on, you see there, the mount for the rear anti-roll bar which I added. So we're going to move those mounts slightly out so they are not touching. And I've also noticed, if you come around to the other side where the tailpipe is, it looks like the tailpipe is, you can see it's all black on here, it's actually touching the tyre. But if I push it over, I can't actually physically get it to touch, but obviously it's probably a little bit of flex in the tyre wall when we're going around the corners hard. So I was maybe going to see if I can get some poly exhaust mounts for this as well, so I'll order some of them and we'll put them on, hopefully stiffen the whole exhaust up. So let's get up in the air and we'll move those anti-roll bar mounts first. Now the car's up in the air, you can see this bracket for the anti-roll bar is very close to the exhaust. I imagine that is what the banging is. And the same for the other side as well. So we'll move them over. They need to go over about 20 mil. So we'll loosen these off, slide them over. And also when these mounts, these polybush mounts turn up, we'll put them on. And hopefully that should stiffen the whole exhaust up. And if it is touching this wheel, then hopefully it will stop touching it. Right, so I've moved these brackets over so it's not touching the exhaust anymore. Zoom that in there, there you go. Now it's a lot easier to do than putting them on, because I guess the U-bolts have moulded around this rear beam. Now as you can see, the rear beam is very rusty, so we'll change that over the winter. And while we're waiting for these new exhaust rubbers, we will check the front brakes. So the reason we're checking these pads, I've booked 2 track days, literally one after the other. Now looking at that, it doesn't look like there's a lot of pad on there. So we'll just take the caliper off quickly and have a proper look at them. I've got the caliper off. They don't look like there's a lot left on them. Let me get this one out. I mean, there's still a little bit of line on there. I mean, I probably should last for 1 track day and maybe have to change them halfway through the day or something. So I'll order some new ones anyway. And I'll maybe measure the new set and see how much they should have on them. They've done 3 track days now. So yeah, so we'll measure them and then we'll get a new set. We'll measure the new set and see how we can work out how much they're worn then, can't we?
1 week later.
So we've had the delivery of new parts. We've got the polybush exhaust mounts, some PBS Pro Race brake pads. So for them, I've also ordered a couple more camber shims for the rear, so we'll add those on as well. Give the rear a little bit more camber, so I'm hoping for probably give us 3 degrees then, I believe. I haven't really got a way of measuring that, but it's a rough estimate. Now these polybush, you can see how stiff this is. I'm squeezing that as hard as I can, and there's hardly any movement in that at all. And this one here is one of the ones I took off, and you can see, look how easy it moves. So hopefully that will stop the exhaust rattling around, banging around, just make it a little bit more stiffer. So let's get the polybush mounts on first. So I'm actually struggling to get these on at the minute, so I've just left that in some hot water to try and soften it up a bit. So hopefully it'll go on a little bit easier. And this one is on. Now the exhaust does seem a bit more stiffer. I can then get my hand between the wheel and the exhaust. Now the other thing I can do is obviously space this wheel out a bit, which is what I want to do anyway, because the wheel is, they do look a bit lost in the arches. And I have rubbed all the rubber off on this side, all the markings, so we'll be able to check it on the next track day, see if it is actually rubbing or not. Okay, so I can see I've removed the brake pads. That is one of the old ones, this is one of the new ones, and as you can see, there is quite a bit of difference. There's a lot more friction material on this one, and this one is worn all the way down, so there's barely a groove left. So we'll fit these new pads and then we'll move on to add in some more camber to the rear. So I've looked at the weather forecast for next week and it looks like it is going to rain, so I've decided not to add the extra camber to the rear at this moment in time, because if it's wet, I'm not going to be leaning on the tyre as much, which means I will not need as much camber. So we're going to leave the rear camber as it is. Now, if you do want to see how I did the rear camber, you can find that on my big handling upgrades video. I'll probably add a link in the description, so if you can click on that if you're that interested. Now, I have got, when I ordered those polybush exhaust hangers, a long polybush exhaust hanger, which I'm going to add onto the S-Max. Now if you watch my S-Max video where I put the straight through pipe on, the straight through pipe didn't fit very well. It's really tight up to the rear bumper, so we're going to add this onto it and we're going to lower the exhaust slightly so it's not touching the bumper. So as you can see, it's literally touching the bumper. Now just under here is one of the exhaust hangers, so if we replace that with one of the longer ones, it should drop it to a better height. There we go. I've got a longer exhaust hanger on there and it's not touching the bumper. Now I might just cut the bumper over a little bit here so it is slightly touching there, but we'll see how that goes. And now we'll move back onto the Civic. The last thing I want to do on the Civic is this arch trim, which has been hanging off ever since I brought the car, and I've tried fixing it many different ways and it keeps coming off. Now I did cut it, it is supposed to be all one piece, and then I used this screw to hold it in here, and then tried gluing it on and cable tying at the bottom here, and it does still flapping around and does not want to stay on. I believe it's a common fault on these. So what I have brought is some of these fancy bolts. So my plan is, where these holes are, there's 1, 2, 3. This is where these clips are. I'm going to drill holes in these 1, 2, 3 here, and then just literally bolt these on. These should look pretty good as well, because they're these nice aluminium washers, and hopefully I'll never have that problem again. Now the reason I did cut this, because to take the front bumper off you have to take this screw out, so I still need to take this off to get the screw out to take the front bumper off, and that is why I cut it. The other side's alright at the moment, but if it did happen on the other side, I would maybe not cut it and then just put these bolts all the way around. I'm not sure yet, but we'll worry about that if it ever comes off. So let's drill some holes and get that bolted on. So I've removed most of the sealant I used before. There's one bracket there, there used to be a bracket there, and a bracket there. I'm literally just going to put a centre punch, drill straight through the middle. These are 6mm, just 6mm holes, and then drop a good one. Right then, this isn't going anywhere. There we go, got that. Well, I hope you enjoyed all the little jobs I've done on the Civic and the S-Max. Obviously I've got my Subaru as well, just parked in the garage. I am planning on getting it out back on the road next year, and I've also got loads of jobs planned on the Civic to make it go faster around track. And there's a few little bits on the S-Max I'd like to do as well. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that, and thanks for watching.